Chapter 1, The Quiet Ache You Tried to Fill with Him. There's a loneliness that doesn't look like loneliness. It's not loud. It's not desperate. You smile. You function. You even laugh with your friends. But deep down, when the noise fades and the world gets quiet, there's a soft ache. A feeling that something's missing, that no matter how full your schedule is, your heart feels empty. And when you meet someone who pays attention, who listens, who touches your hand like it means something, it's like water to a thirsty soul. You don't just feel attraction, you feel relief. Suddenly your world lights up again. The silence is gone. The ache is quieted. You start imagining a life with this person, not just because they're wonderful, but because they've become a distraction from the emptiness you couldn't name. And that's where the pattern begins. You think it's love, but what you're really feeling is escape. You're not just falling for him. You're falling into the fantasy that love will finally fill the void. But here's the truth. Most people never say out loud, loneliness can't be healed by love that comes from outside. Because that kind of love, even when it feels good, is borrowed comfort. It numbs the ache, but it doesn't remove it. You may have told yourself things like, if I find the right person, I won't feel this way anymore. If someone chooses me, I'll finally feel whole. If I can just be loved the way I've always wanted, maybe I won't feel so empty. And for a while it works. The first few weeks, the intense texts, the late-night calls. You feel wanted, desired, seen. But then slowly it starts to fade. He pulls away. Or the magic wears off. Or worse, he's still there, but the ache returns. And now you're even lonelier than before, because now you're not just alone, you're alone. And wondering, wasn't love supposed to fix this? This is the painful part. The moment when you realize maybe you didn't want him. Maybe you just didn't want to be alone. Let's talk about what loneliness really is. Loneliness isn't just the absence of people. It's the absence of connection to yourself. It's the distance between who you are and who you're pretending to be to feel wanted. It's the silence that comes when you silence your own needs to keep someone else close. And so many women learn this young, that love will save you, that a man will complete you, that being chosen means being healed. But no one tells you that the moment you make someone else your medicine, you hand them the power to reopen every wound. He texts less, and you spiel it. He gets busy and you feel forgotten. He says, I need space, and suddenly you're back in that childhood place, feeling invisible, unwanted. Not enough. It's not about him. It's about the belief that love is the cure for something only you can heal. This isn't judgment. It's recognition. You've been doing what so many of us were taught to do. Use love as a bandage. Use attention as a substitute for inner connection. Use someone else's presence to distract from your own absence. But the truth is, you can't outsource your healing. And here's the most painful part. When you love someone from that place of emptiness, it's never just about who they are. It's about what they represent. You're not just afraid to lose him. You're afraid to be left alone with that ache again. So you tolerate more. You overgive. You lose yourself trying to keep him close, not because you don't know your worth, but because you're terrified of what it means to feel that lonely again. But here's what no one told you. Loneliness isn't a punishment. It's a signal. It's the soul saying, I miss myself. And until you listen, until you stop trying to stuff that feeling down with another body, another fantasy, another moment of being wanted, you'll keep chasing love that looks like medicine, but feels like withdrawal the moment it's gone. So what now? You pause. You breathe. You begin to ask different questions. What if this ache isn't here to ruin me, but to reveal me? What if I'm not broken, but just disconnected from my own presence? What if I stopped reaching for him and started reaching for me? That is the turning point. Not when you find the one who texts you back first, But when you sit with your loneliness long enough to realize it wasn't asking for a man, it was asking for you. In the next chapter, we'll explore this through the lens of Jungian psychology. We'll look at how loneliness connects to the unconscious, why we use love to avoid our own inner world, and how this pattern can finally break. Not through romance, but through a reunion with your truest self. Because love isn't the cure for loneliness. Presence is. And the more present you are with yourself, the less you need anyone else to fill a space that was never meant to be empty in the first place. Chapter 2, Jungian Lens. Why you use love to escape loneliness. Carl Jung once said, loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. And if you've ever sat in a room full of people, or in a relationship that looked perfect on the outside, but still felt completely alone on the inside, you know exactly what he meant. Loneliness in Jungian psychology isn't just a social condition, it's a soul condition. It happens when the connection to yourself is lost, when the dialogue between your conscious life and your unconscious world has broken down. And so instead of turning inward toward the ache, the mystery, the silence, you look outward. You look for someone to bridge the distance, someone whose love might quiet the ache. But here's the paradox. Jung understood so deeply. The more you run from loneliness, the lonelier you become. Because the part of you that feels unloved, it doesn't want to be fixed. It wants to be met by you, met in presence, met in truth. Let's talk about how this dynamic gets built unconsciously. Jung called it the complex. And in this case, we're looking at what we might call the loneliness-love complex. It forms early. Maybe you grew up in a home where your emotions weren't fully seen. Maybe your caregivers were physically there, but emotionally distant. Maybe you learned silently and slowly that to feel safe, you had to hide parts of yourself. So the self, your full, radiant feeling, expressive self, got pushed underground. And in its place, you created a persona, the one who smiles, the one who performs, the one who stays quiet to keep the peace. But something was lost. Not your worth, not your soul. What was lost was your connection to your inner world. And when that thread of connection breaks, what rushes in is emptiness. That emptiness is the echo of the parts of you that were left behind. Now fast forward to adulthood. You meet someone who makes you feel seen, even if just for a moment. He looks into your eyes. He calls you special. He says things no one has said before. And suddenly, that inner ache softens. Your nervous system exhales. You don't just feel attraction. You feel relief. But here's the thing. You're not actually in love with him. You're in love with how he makes you feel about yourself. He becomes a mirror, a reflection of your long-lost parts. The ones that still ache for validation. The ones that say, maybe if I'm loved by him, I'll finally be worthy. Jung called this projection. Projection is when we unconsciously assign parts of our psyche, especially the parts we've exiled, to someone else. In Jungian terms, when a woman projects onto a man, it often involves her animus, her inner masculine. The animus is not just a figure. It's a whole structure inside you made up of every male influence you've ever internalized: your father, your first love, your teachers, the stories you were told, the men you longed for. If those experiences were marked by distance inconsistency or emotional absence, then your inner masculine becomes unreliable, rejecting, or silent. So what happens? You look for men who reflect that same energy, and when one comes along, who's a little unavailable, a little mysterious, a little emotionally distant, your psyche lights up. This feels familiar, it says. This is my chance to finally be chosen. But here's the painful truth. You're not loving him. You're trying to reconcile with your animus. You're trying to heal your inner masculine by winning the love of someone who represents the very wound. Now let's bring in another Jungian concept, The shadow. Your shadow contains all the parts of yourself you've rejected, forgotten, or suppressed. And for many women who use love to escape loneliness, the shadow holds something surprising: their own presence. You've been taught to be there for others, to pour out your energy, to tend to everyone else's needs. But being there for yourself, that's foreign, uncomfortable, sometimes even painful. Because when you slow down enough to sit with yourself, you hear things you've long tried to avoid. I feel empty. I'm tired of performing. I don't know who I am without someone to love. That's the shadow speaking. Not to shame you, but to invite you back home. And this is where Jung's greatest insight comes in. The cure for projection is not to fix the other person. It's to reclaim the projection. To say, that man isn't my savior. He's a symbol of the parts of me I've disowned. And then to begin the long, gentle work of integrating those parts. Instead of waiting for someone to make you feel whole, you begin to build a relationship with your inner masculine, the part of you that stays steady, the part of you that protects your boundaries, the part of you that shows up when it's hard and stays. And slowly, the urge to use love as a distraction fades, because you're no longer trying to be chosen. You're choosing yourself. And here's the wild thing. As you come back into relationship with your own self, you no longer feel that desperate ache. The silence becomes peaceful. The nights alone become sacred, not because you don't want love anymore, but because you no longer need it to fill a void that was never meant to be filled from outside. Love becomes a choice, not a lifeline. Connection becomes a gift, not a strategy. And being with yourself feels like coming home. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to transform this inner healing into outer action. You'll learn how to love from wholeness, not emptiness, how to sit with your loneliness until it becomes intimacy, and how to stop reaching for love as medicine, so you can finally receive it as a mirror of your wholeness, not a patch for your pain. Because the love you're truly craving begins with the one who looks back at you in the mirror. Chapter 3. From escaping loneliness to embracing wholeness, there comes a quiet turning point on the healing path. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It's not triggered by another heartbreak or some dramatic goodbye. It comes in the stillness, when you finally stop running, when you sit with your loneliness and realize she's not here to hurt you. She's here to guide you home. For most of your life, you've treated loneliness like an enemy. You've tried to outsmart her, outrun her disguise, her in romance, drown her in connection. But she's never left, because she wasn't something to be fixed. She was your soul asking to be felt. This chapter isn't about falling in love with someone else. It's about falling back into love with the one person you abandoned in your search for love. Step 1. Reframe. Loneliness as a messenger. Loneliness isn't a flaw. It's not proof that you're broken or unlovable or doing life wrong. It's simply a messenger from your deeper self. Carl Jung believed that symptoms, emotional pain, longing, dreams, anxiety, are expressions of the unconscious trying to speak. So what if your loneliness is not a void, but a voice? What if every ache was your soul saying, "Come back, I miss you"? What if you stopped trying to fill it and finally started listening to it? When you sit with your loneliness without numbing it, something profound happens. You realize it's not emptiness. It's the space where your real self lives, waiting for you to return. Step 2. Shift from getting love to becoming love. The old you believed love was something outside yourself, a person to find, a relationship to chase, a presence that could fix the ache inside. But the deeper truth is this: real love doesn't come from getting. It comes from being. You don't heal loneliness by getting someone to stay. You heal it by becoming the kind of presence you always needed. Start with this question: what if I stopped trying to get love and started practicing how to be? Be the love that listens without judgment, the love that stays when things get hard, the love that holds you on lonely nights without needing to be rescued. This is inner reparenting. This is what Jung called the integration of the self. It's the slow reunion between who you are and the parts of you you've left behind while chasing others. Step 3. Build rituals of self-connection. You can't fill the ache of disconnection without first learning how to deeply connect with you. Create simple daily rituals that bring you back to yourself. Journaling each morning with the prompt, "What part of me needs love today?" Speaking gently to yourself in the mirror before bed. Sitting with your hand over your heart and saying, "I am safe. I belong. I am already whole." These small acts aren't self-care trends. They are sacred returns. Moments where you become the loving presence your inner child has always needed. And here's the magic. The more time you spend with your own heart, the less desperate you become for someone else to fill it. Step 4. Redefine love. Through wholeness or lack, for so long you chased love to fill a hole. And so you attracted others, who mirrored that same lack, relationships built on need, not wholeness. But when you stop seeing love as a remedy for loneliness, it transforms. Love becomes something you share, not something you need to survive. It becomes an extension of your peace, not a rescue from your pain. Imagine entering a relationship where you're not afraid of silence, where you're not seeking constant reassurance, where you don't need to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself. That's the difference between love from lack and love from wholeness. One drains you, the other expands you. Step 4. Recognize your enoughness without earning it. So much of the old conditioning whispered, "You're only lovable when you're needed, when you're fixing someone, when you're performing well." But true wholeness says, you are enough even when you're doing nothing, even when you're alone, even when no one is texting you back or calling you in. Practice being with yourself without immediately trying to fix, distract, or achieve. Let your enoughness live in your breath. Let it be felt in quiet moments when you make tea for yourself, when you put your hand on your heart, when you cry without trying to stop it. This is how you rewire self-worth. Not by becoming more, but by releasing the belief that you were ever not enough to begin with. Step 6. The paradox of magnetism. Here's the beautiful twist. The moment you stop chasing love to escape loneliness is the moment love begins to find you. Why? Because you're no longer radiating from hunger. You're radiating from fullness. You're no longer trying to prove you're worthy. You're embodying the truth that you already are. Jung called this alignment with the self, and it's magnetic. Not because you're trying to be attractive, but because wholeness is the most attractive energy there is. The people you now draw in won't be looking for someone to complete them. They'll be looking to share with someone who already knows how to be whole. Step 7. Sit with the ache. Then let it alchemize. This final step is the most important and the most tender. Sit with your ache, not to get rid of it, but to let it soften you. Let the loneliness become the soil where deeper love can grow. Let it teach you the difference between need and nourishment. Let it break your old habits of chasing love and open you to receiving it. Because the woman who no longer fears being alone is the woman who is finally ready to love from truth, not from emptiness, not from desperation, but from peace, the wholeness you were always searching for. So here you are. After years of searching, of chasing, of trying to use love as a cure for your loneliness, you've found something deeper, not a person, not a perfect relationship, but a version of you that you trust, that you come home to, that no longer disappears just to feel loved. And from that place, love stops being the escape. It becomes the mirror, the reflection of a woman who knows she is already whole, already enough, already home. And that is where real love finally begins. If you've made it here, you're already doing something powerful. You're no longer just searching for love. You're learning how to return to yourself, and maybe for the first time. You're sitting with your loneliness, not as a punishment, but as a sacred invitation. An invitation to stop running, to stop reaching for someone else to fix the ache, to stop believing that love will only come when you're less needy, more perfect, more together, and instead, to begin trusting that real love flows to you. When you stop abandoning yourself to get it, you are not broken because you felt lonely. You are human, and your loneliness has always held wisdom. It has always pointed you home. You're not here to be filled by someone else. You're here to remember your own depth, to feel the quiet strength of a woman who chooses love, not to heal her wounds, but to share her wholeness. So when the ache returns, when the urge to reach outward arises, breathe. Place your hand over your heart and whisper to yourself, I am already enough. I am already home. If this message spoke to something deep in you, if you felt seen, softened, or awakened in some way, please like this video to help it reach others on their own healing path. Share it with someone who may need to hear this today. And in the comments, let us know. What have you learned about yourself when you stopped chasing love? This space is for you. This channel is for your healing. And this journey is just beginning. See you in the next video. Psychology Jung.